It's all coming up goats. Join me as I visit with Margie Weber and talk goat cheese, goat yogurt, even goat yoga. All on this episode of Food, Flowers, and Fun. If you're the woman who does it all, farm work, housework, bookwork, homework, getting up at the break of dawn, this is the podcast for you.
How do you multiply by fractions now?
Get away from the cares of the day. Free stock, root stock, feed stock, seed stock. Chat with women around the world who raise food, flowers, and fun. With your host, Kay Castrataro. That's me. Welcome back to Food, Flowers, and Fun. I am your host, Kay Castrataro. As always, we are sponsored by Penlight for Farmers, helping you to create purposeful farm lives rich in time, energy, and abundance. And today, I have Margie Weber with us from Oaks Goat Creamery. And wow, I have a hard time saying the Oaks Goat Creamery. I want to say like Oats Goat Creamery, which is totally not correct. Margie, welcome. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Glad to be here.
I'm so glad to have you. So, I love the whole Goats Creamery thing. Goats are very fun. I've had two goats in my lifetime. The first one was not actually ours, but it lived on our farm and promptly got out of where it was supposed to be, jumped into a wheelbarrow and broke its leg. And so that was my first experience with goats. So I was a little anti-goat for quite a few years until I finally got my own. And he also was a little bit tricky, but he was fun. And we did learn to keep him in his fence. And so life was good with him. So tell me how you got into goats and how you decided to do the Goat Creamery.
So we bought our first goat actually on the corner, or the major intersection of our creamery is Shaw and Academy. And we actually bought our first goat there as a pet goat on the way home from boating. Back in
So it was an impulse buy? Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, it was really cute. But yeah. He was on the corner and a man was selling him. And so he asked, so we stopped oh, goat, cute. We lived out on 2 acres at the time and we had a dog kennel so he could just kind of hang out in the backyard. So we named him Billy. So we had him for years. And then kids grew, the goat grew, we lost him. And then kids grew up, went to college, started professions, things like that. I just wanted to retire from nursing and decided I wanted to go back into agriculture sort of thing, having been raised on a cow dairy. And goats are considered the livestock of women because they're easy to can handle and things like that.
Right.
So we got 3 goats and they were so cute. I bought 3 more. And then the question was, what are you going to do with those goats? I'm I'll start a creamery. Easy enough, called CDFA. And the supervisor's if you're going to start a creamery, you got to follow a lot of rules. I thought, oh, no problem. Then well, maybe if you only sell from one, it's you sell from 1 goat or 10 or 100, you're considered a dairy. So then we got started. We had to find some land because our home was
2 acres. 2 acres was not going to sustain a goat dairy.
Yes. No. So we had bought another 20 by then, had a house up and kind of in the foothills, very pretty. Hence the name Rocky Oaks, because the property has oak trees and lots of rocks. Yep. So that's where the name comes from. And so we looked around to find some land and found our current location, and then started developing it with buying the buildings, getting PG&E, getting water, and the whole process was a 2-year process of building. So we started in 2016, opened in 2018.
Okay. So when you were talking about water, do you have to are you in California? Is that what I'm
Yes,
right?
we're in California.
We're in the water in California is so tricky to begin with agriculture. It's at such a high premium.
Right.
So do you have to have state water, town water, municipal water?
We're on a private well.
Okay,
we're a private well, which actually works well because then we bring it directly into the creamery.
Yep.
And have water testing to make sure that it's clean.
Yep.
The only time we've had problems or growth in it is whenever we've interrupted or broken the system. So we're very efficient now at bleaching it after we have repairs.
Yes, yes. And I'm assuming, so tell me how your goat dairy works. Tell me about your whole system. Do you have pipes or are you working more from buckets and dumping buckets? Like, do
So
you work
what
by
we
hand? How do you do
we're
that?
what's called a closed herd,
Hmm.
meaning that we have just our own animals. We keep our we have our own bucks that we breed our does to, and we keep those with a few each year. The rest we sell it to usually milkers, people who want to have their own milk at home.
Sure.
So we have a closer, so we raise them up, then um, they are able to, usually they're 2 years of age before they come into milk production age.
Yep.
So we keep them until then, and then we milk in the mornings.
Okay.
So, and we're on a bucket system, meaning we milk into a buckets, and then we pour it, filter it, pour it into another bucket. And so we store it in a refrigerator, and
Hmm.
then we take the milk from there into the cheese parlor to make the cheese. So that's why we're a grade B's, because we don't have a monitored bulk tank.
Okay.
So we can't sell our milk.
Okay. So you can only sell milk byproducts after they've been processed. Is that what I'm?
We only sell cheese. If we were going to sell the whey, which is the byproduct from cheese making, then you'd have to repasteurize that and it'd be another label and things like that.
Oh, I see.
So what
Okay.
it is I just had my milk inspector here. So what it is that we actually have two different people that regulate us, because we're regulated in the county rules with our dairy.
Yeah.
And so that inspector comes every month. And then in our cheese plant, we're every 3 months is CDFA, because we're considered a cheese plant.
Okay. All right. And what kind of cheeses do you make?
We make 10 different types, and then we make a goat yogurt. So we make the fresh cheese. It's known as, like, we call it Princess Pride. It's a cream cheese style.
Yeah.
And then we have a Princess Crumble, which is was a happy mistake that our cheesemaker church stirred the culture because it wasn't quite dissolving quite right. And so upset the coagulation. So now we let this milk sit, coagulate it, culture it, and sit until it's about the consistency of buttermilk. And then
Okay.
we stir it on purpose, and then it becomes very crumbly. So
Okay.
then we make Eris, which is a fresh, clean tasting cheese. It's the farm style or the hoop
Hmm.
that I call it the converting cheese, because people who don't really like goat cheese will buy that, taste that one, go like, oh, this is really good.
Yep.
So, and then we have a feta, which is dry
My
salted, so it
favorite.
doesn't have the
Love
big
fetas.
salt. Yeah, it doesn't have the big salt flavor that a lot of people like or expect in a feta. But
Okay.
our goats are purebred Nubians and have great butter fat, so I'm not going to hide their milk with salt. Then, then
It
we,
reminds me of that scene in I don't know if you ever saw the old musical Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, but
mm-mm,
there's this scene and they're at this like old 1800s restaurant type thing and
uh-huh.
everybody's crying for food, and so this woman is like ladling out stew and some guy looks at her and he's like, "Where's the ketchup?" And she gets all offended and she's like, "My stew can stand on its own 2 feet." And that's what I'm hearing with the
Yes,
Nubians. Our
yes,
Nubians don't need any salt. They can stand on their
no,
own two, well,
it is
four,
true.
4 feet.
Yes, that's very fitting. So then we also have two bries. We make a traditional brie that's patience. Then we have weebs, which is one with activated charcoal on the outside of it. Then my dad was
And
Dutch.
why do you use, so I interrupt all the time, so I
Oh,
apologize in
it's okay.
advance for all my interruptions. So tell me what the activated charcoal on the outside is all
What
about.
it does is it slows down the bacteria growth, so it's a milder cheese. It doesn't have
Mm,
the pungent taste that the patience has.
okay. Yep, I get that.
It's and it Looks great on cheese trays because it has the black ash and the real pretty white milk on the contrast.
Yeah. Very
Restaurants use
cool.
it a lot on their cheese trays.
Okay. All right.
Then we have a Gouda, that's
Okay.
our heritage. Then we have a Manchego, which is our vino queso, and Rocky, our full flavored guy. That's an Urmson style cheese. So
Okay.
it's more class. It's a stronger cheese with a great aftertaste.
Okay. And which is your favorite? Both to me.
That's
Well,
that's a loaded question
yeah,
because
of course
I
it is.
like them all. I like them all, and obviously I've used lots of cheese, and so it depends on what I'm making, what I'm using.
Okay. And what about to make? So, I haven't, I took a cheese making class once 1,000 years ago and just found the whole
Mhm.
thing, the whole process fascinating. But I tend to be a little impatient in my day-to-day life. And so making cheese is one of those things that it does take time and you have to like invest in it. And so I'm not necessarily the best cheese maker in the world, which is why I'm a podcast host instead.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And
Yes.
but I like to talk to the cheesemakers. So, which of the cheeses kind of got you yourself into making cheeses and which ones do you like to make the most and why? Or
Well,
is there a most?
we kind of spread out depending upon on Monday mornings we have a cheese meeting that we plan out what we're going to need for the week because of orders and different things like that, and depends upon what market we're going to be doing and what sales, things like that. Probably the easiest to make is the Princess Pride
Okay.
or the crumble because you just basically pasteurize the milk, cool the milk, add the culture, add the rennet, and let it sit. Then the next day you drain it and then you can pack it. So
Making cheese.
it's like yeah, it's like a done deal. The heiress is easier to make too because it's sits and then you mill it with just a little bit of salt. You drain it, mill it, and then put it under low weight. That's the big trick to it 'cause that's what gives it this fresh, clean taste. And so that was nice. I like the feta to make. The one that's the most complicated to make is probably the manchego because you
Okay.
have to rice the curds and
Okay.
then drain it and then you let it sit underneath. So first you break everything up, then you make it solid, then you break it up again, and then you press it again. So
Okay.
so that has a few more steps and a little more labor intensive. And then Rocky is a great cheese, but it goes under the presses under three different weights. So then you're flipping three different times to do it. So
Wow.
and then
Wow.
then we also make a ricotta. The ricotta is interesting to make if it's cool. If it's cool, moist weather, then it's more difficult to get it to coagulate. So then it's not really. So it's a seasonal cheese for us.
Oh, see, it's hot and muggy here right now, so I'm like, oh, maybe this would be good cheese making weather for that, which I wouldn't necessarily think of hot and muggy as good cheese making weather, but
Well, see, the big enemy in cheese in the like in your whole cheese processing and with milk is mold
mm,
because it's a perfect medium for things. And then if it's too moist, things like that, then you end up with mold very easily.
yes. And so have you run into that? Like, do you end up, I mean, obviously you're not selling moldy cheese. Um,
Well,
but
cheese naturally has mold on it, but yeah. So especially the
moldy in a
pastry.
bad way, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah, we fight with it. We fight with it. But being very clean and fastidious is a great skill, a great trait to have in a cheese making people and that like to clean because you clean a lot.
Yeah,
So
another
that way
reason why I'm
that
not a great
counteracts.
cheesemaker.
Yeah. Uh,
All of my personality flaws are coming
yeah.
out when we're talking
Yeah.
about making cheese.
Yeah. It's not for everybody. And then one of the big questions people always ask is, well, how long does it take you? Which is kind of a loaded question because it does take, like you do a step and then you have to wait.
Right.
And then you do a step and then you have to wait. And then we have daily cheese chores that you have to tend to the cheese every day. And so people are like, oh, because it's not like a one and done sort of thing.
No, and And on the one hand, you say, oh boy, that's very laborious. But on the other hand, you already have goats. So as soon as you have livestock, you're already doing things every day anyway, because they have to be fed, they have to be milked, they have to be cleaned. Like there are
Right.
now, granted, you would definitely not want to be doing your goat chores, and then going straight into the into the cheese making
Yes,
room.
it's a
Imagine
big
that. That's
problem.
not good policy.
No,
But the
that's
fact
not
is,
the
you already have to be there. Like doing things like taking vacations are already tricky because you have livestock. So to
right,
have that
right.
sort of thing tricky because you've got cheese, it seems to me like kind of just an extension of what you're already doing.
I have a very trustworthy staff, and so
Okay.
a cheese staff is totally different from what my herd people are.
Yep.
Because they my cheesemaker knows about goats and things like that, and actually her daughter was my one of my first milkers.
Oh
And
wow.
so she has a long history of knowing animals and caring about animals, but it's not her thing like to learn how to kid or this budding or any of the other sort of stuff that my herd girls are like, oh yeah, that sounds good. And they, oh good, new babies, and they know, and the determination of a good milker who really knows your herd is that they can tell the goats by their udders.
Yep.
Because so they know everyone's a little bit different and they take care of them accordingly.
Yep. Yep. I was on a dairy farm when I was a kid, so I totally understand that. You get under them and you
Hmm.
just know, from the way that the teats are sitting and,
Hmm.
the,
Who's
the
who?
color sometimes, the compactness, like
Hmm.
all of that.
Hmm.
It's just,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, that's so how many goats are in your herd at this time?
Well, we're milking 35, but we
Okay.
probably have 80 goats total
Okay.
because we have our bucks and we keep the bucks separate from our ladies. And that's what helps the milk stay nice and clean too,
Yeah.
is so we keep them at home and then we have our little girls that we're raising up. So our replacement herd is at
Yep.
home, and then our retirees are at home. And then if we've called anybody because of counts or difficult births or something like that, then we keep them at home too.
Okay.
So,
So
so we
do
have,
you keep all of your, I'm sorry, do you keep all of your elderly and culls, or do you meet
mhm,
any of them, or no, so
no,
you keep
we
them right
keep
till the
them.
end. Oh. So
Hmm.
that's a rare thing. Most dairies I would imagine don't do that.
Well, it's not probably the most cost effective thing. But the goats have given their basically their life to you, and so I
Yeah.
think it's only appropriate that you take care of them too.
Yeah. No, I think it's a beautiful thing. I do think it's probably a little rarer than other ways of
Hmm.
handling them. So that's very cool that you do that. And how
Hmm.
many how many people do you have taking care of the herds? And then how many
We
people do you have in the cheese rooms?
I have two people in the cheese room, and then probably six people that do outside chores.
Okay.
But it's all part-time because it's always a split shift too, because we
Okay.
milk in the morning, clean barns in the morning, and then in the afternoon put everybody away and feed, things like that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the weird things. So my former pastor had milking goats, and so when he would go on vacation, he would ask me
Hmm.
if I would go over and help milk. Because although I had never milked goats, I had milked a lot of cows. So I was
Yeah,
like, I'm pretty sure if
everybody
I can
here.
milk a cow, I can handle a goat. I'm like,
Yeah,
I
for
think I
sure.
got that. And I did. It was great. But it is a time consuming process. So I'm thinking when you're
Hmm.
milking 35, that takes quite a while. So how many people do you have
It just
doing?
it's a one person job in that
Okay.
we only milk six at a time. So you're bringing up the different goats. Whenever once they're connected, it's probably about 5 minutes per goat. But
Okay.
it's the moving the goats because we have two separate groups because one group kidded in January and then one kid in March. And
Okay.
so they're separate. So kind of to keep more of a year-round supply of milk.
Sure.
So
Right.
we keep them separate, and then goats are clicky and they like their routine. So they have who comes up first, and they don't, there's people sometimes they don't like, so then they pick on them or all sorts of stuff. We think they have a meeting at night to decide who's going to act up that next day.
Oh,
One goat will be perfectly good one day, and the next day she's awful. So it's yeah, they're quite the personalities.
yes. That kind of reminds me, my great grandfather now is 95. Did he just have his 95th? I think it was his 95th that we just celebrated. But when he was still kind of overseeing some of the farm stuff and
Hmm.
working with them instead of like my dad and my brother being in charge of it. They would say that my grandfather would have the 2 o'clock council because they'd all make a plan the night before and then they'd get together the next morning and grandpa would have like this idea and he'd be like, well, now we're going to do this. And everybody would be like,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
2 o'clock council met. And so I'm thinking that maybe
Yeah.
your goats have a 2 o'clock
Yeah.
council
They
of their own.
could. They could, but they don't. They probably do it before they go to bed. Probably during dinner over the dinner table because they really don't like being disturbed at night. Like if you have one in labor and you go out to check on people, they look at you like you're so disgusted. Why are you disturbing us right now?
Excuse us, this is our time.
Yeah, yeah, this is our downtime. And then the other thing is that they really don't like getting up before, like cows they milk it too, and I think they do on big dairies. But since
Yeah,
we're a micro creamery, we usually start about 6:30. So
yeah,
they're not used to getting up before the sun comes up.
yes. Well, I find that, it's a funny thing that you said that about big farms where they'll milk it too, like that 3 time a day milking.
Mhm. Right.
We did not do that. We did 4 and 4 when we were milking. It was 4 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon. So early, but not like ridiculously early. But I remember when I lived in Wisconsin, I rented a house from a dairy farmer, and he would milk at 9 o'clock in the morning and 9 o'clock at night. And I remember when I first found this out, I just thought that was the weirdest thing in the world. And I was like, what farmer works like milks at 9 in the morning? Like you're supposed to be done with your milking by then. But he just that was what worked for him. And so
Yeah.
I'm sure that his cows were probably adjusted to it and they all just
Hmm.
worked
Hmm.
fine because that was
Hmm.
his schedule. And now I have this philosophy that we should build our farm lives around the farmer and not around like some external idea of what good farming looks like because everybody's
Hmm.
different. And so, yeah, that if 6 o'clock works for you, do 6 o'clock. You know?
Hmm. Hmm.
So,
Yeah. I mean, why get up at the crack of dawn? And then you could get to, and then, yeah, depending on how much you're milking and things like that, but might be a much more tolerable schedule for him.
yeah, well, for him, I mean, the thought of going out and starting chores at 9 o'clock at night just doesn't work for me because I'm a morning person to begin with. So I'm like, oh, I'll get up early, but don't make
Yeah.
me don't make me do this. So talk to me a little bit about the marketing. So I heard you say that you go to farmers markets, and
Hmm.
how else are you selling your cheese and yogurt? You said you've got yogurt as well, right?
Hmm. So we we use brown as our color theme type stuff. Our
Okay.
logo is our first goat is Bella, who is our first goat, and so is Rocky Oaks. And so we find a good connection with farmers market because usually the people buying at farmers markets like to know the farmer where their product's coming from. And so it's a kind of a natural easy for us to be there because it's I do the markets and my husband does, so we have, of course, firsthand experience on the whole thing.
Right.
And so people like that connection, and then you start building up with your regulars and things like that. And usually the people at farmers markets are willing to pay a little bit more for their quality products
Mhm.
versus a lot of wholesale. Wholesale, we haven't gotten into the wholesale because we don't have the shelf life and we don't have the quantity
Right.
that you need to have for wholesale.
Mm.
So it's just in the market, just we do well in the morning markets when people are grocery shopping.
Yep.
There's a lot of evening farmers markets where there's food trucks and events and music and
Oh,
things like that,
yeah.
which are fun. but they're not really good for selling cheese
I was
because
gonna say, when you said that, I was like, oh, I wasn't thinking about evening farmers markets. And then I was thinking, but if they're doing music and stuff, like, is that it's
yeah,
more of an entertainment thing. So maybe if you
right,
had like
right.
your cheese trays and were like doing samples, people would eat them. But yeah, I don't think anybody wants to like carry their cheese around at a
Mm-mm. No, it's to say
at an
it's
evening festival.
yeah, it's, especially here, whenever it gets like to be 105,
Right,
things like
right.
that.
Remember that mold
Usually
we were
cools
talking
down to
about?
80. Yeah. So, or the melting factor and stuff like that. So no. And so it's just so we do morning markets and we're doing 4 different sites now. So my husband does the vineyard here in town, and then I go over to Monterey and do Monterey Market, and then there's one in Aptos, and I've just started Morgan Hill Market.
Okay. And you have a farm stand as well?
We do have a farm stand, and so and with a refrigerator, things like that, that people can come out and buy.
Yep. So what is your favorite what is your favorite part about your whole farm business? Because you were talking about the difference between the cheesemakers and the herdsmen, which or herds people. How are we gender
You
inclusive
can
with
be
that?
herd women.
Herds women. No, see,
Yeah.
I grew up so
Yeah.
patriarchal. I grew up so patriarchal, so I still have like all of the male language, and now I'm like shifting into this whole new feminist side of me, which feels very strange and very liberating all at the same time. And so now my
Mhm.
language is all confused. I'm like, I don't know how to speak. So anyway, herds women, we'll go with herds people, herds
Yeah.
animal caretakers.
Herd.
So
Goat staff.
it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, you
Anyway,
can do
so
it.
which are your favorite parts of the business?
Probably the goats. It's the kind that we have the cheese makings because I needed wanted the goats, and like I have lots of goats, and I just like their personalities and their characters.
Yeah.
So I would rather be outside than inside,
Okay.
and so can't bring the goats in. But yeah, it's the goats, but also the most stressful are the goats
Mm,
because of the kidding and then the bonding with them and things like that and all the different things. So
right.
the whole thing is centered around the goats.
Right. So let me ask you about that. Because one of the things I like to talk to, especially women farmers about, is how you take care of yourself while you're taking care of this big farm business. Because often, and especially when you're talking about the many aspects of the farm like you have, you've got your whole milking business, like the milking part, I should say. And then
Hmm.
you've also got the home farm that has, your bucks and the retirees and the replacements all coming up. So you've got that whole thing, which is its own management. And then you've got the making of the cheese, which is its own management, and then the marketing and the selling of the cheese, which is again its own thing. So it's like you've got
Hmm.
these four big buckets of energy that gets expended. How do you
Right.
take care of yourself while you're doing all of this?
Probably by going to Monterey, then you get a break because you leave the farm, and then you're over away from it. So, and then I stay at a hotel, and you can't really do any work when you're in a hotel.
Right?
So it gives you a little bit of a break, a little bit of downtime type of thing.
Yeah.
So that's one big factor. Then as far as the many components, probably the I have capable staff that I'm teaching in as far as the herd goes, so that they're coming along, so I can trust them to take care of the goats while you're gone and know different things. And then as far as my cheese room goes, my cheesemaker Lucia is a gem and is very responsible and can handle the whole thing. Probably wakes up in the middle of the night worried about the cheese and things like that. So you can't really
Wow.
ask for more than that.
No.
And then at home for this, my husband, that's his whole project type thing. So
Okay.
he feeds over there daily and takes care of all those people.
Okay. So you've really
You kind
kind of
of divide,
divvied.
you have to kind of what's the right word? Delegate. type
Yes.
thing. You have to have control and have to have knowledge of what they're doing, but it's okay to delegate as long as you still know what's going on.
Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
I consult with farmers on their whole farm systems, and I've said that about different parts of farming or their farm businesses, even like things like the websites and that. I'm like, you don't have to
Mhm.
be an expert, but you have to at least know some of the basics of it because you have to be
Mhm.
able to know if the person who you're paying to do that is like actually doing the job right or
Right.
is, taking all your money for no effort. Like you have to
Mhm.
have enough of a working knowledge of most of this stuff to be able to oversee properly, but then to have staff that you can trust is totally critical. And
Mhm.
how do you get your staff? So you were talking about it's your cheesemaker who had the daughter that was one of your milkers, correct?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so how did you end up how do you find the good staff that you have and how long do they stay with you?
It all depends. I find like if I've had some really capable high school juniors that look at how I think I talked to the ag teachers to get one of them, Emily, who's one of my people, who's now actually going to college in Texas, is going to come home and work for a bit,
Okay.
be home for work, so she can pick up where she left off. The next, and one of my other gals on my herd people was she ended up with some of my goats from my niece. And so then asked her if she'd be interested. And she's like, yeah. So she's turned out really great. Then the other gal that I have, Charlie, right now, is she bought some of my goats when she was like 14 and then sent a letter that now she was ready for a first job and wondered if she could come work here. And she's worked out really great too. Then there's another gal who is known by my other cheese assistant person that she was referred and it was her first job too, and she's really very good. Then I have a couple other gals that are ag students.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'll advertise through Fresno State
Okay.
for students and things like that because they have a big ag program there, and they also have a food science program. So I've had
Oh,
people come through them. So
for
it
the
all
cheese
depends.
making, do they come through for the cheese making as well, the food science?
I've had cheese interns that have
Yeah.
come through for that, which was worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
As far as the length that people stay, Lucia's been with me 5 years, and I can see her being at least 10 more, hopefully.
Oh, great.
And she says, I try not to micromanage people, so I let people have their own make, their
Some
decisions and control over
independence.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I think that's helpful. And so my milker staff probably turns over more because it can be an entry job for a lot of people, or it can be like a school, things like that. So that they're just part-time and they're kind of moving on type of thing.
Right. Yeah,
So,
I think that using the schools nearby is a very underutilized resource. I remember we had one farmer on, and I think they had all kinds of their buildings were actually created by different, tech kids who were just
hmm
doing projects and they needed to go out and do community service and build things. And so there really is a huge opportunity to access
hmm
labor. And if they're already in school for these areas, then you know that they have some kind of an interest. And I think that
yes.
that helps a lot because agriculture is really tough. Like you're out there in
Mhm.
all weathers and you know
It's
and
not
it's
an
in
it's not an
California,
easy
it's
job.
110 in the shade and it's like
Yeah,
nobody.
it can be it's a lot of things. And the big thing with ag that people don't quite get is it's an everyday deal. It's not like you get holidays off or, Christmas. I'm lucky that there's people that like, oh, we do Christmas later, so they're willing to milk in the morning,
Yeah,
stuff like that, where someone else is like or Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving people they travel more out of town, which is a little bit different.
yeah,
But most people you have to find people that are willing to realize that it's an everything. And you don't get to come at 8, 6:30.
right.
So
Yeah,
And
yeah, it's an early day.
now the nice thing about it is that it's not a real strict dress code. And so you can dress to keep warm and be prepared to get wet and muddy and
Right.
dirty. So
Yeah,
and you
and you
don't
get a
have to,
lot of physical exercise, so that's a good
yes,
thing. So
that's that's
there
that's very
are good things.
yeah, it's very common that people are like, yeah, I used to not be able to lift this, but now I can move a bale of hay. So yeah, they're a strong group.
Yeah. So so you have your farm stand as well on the place, and do you have people coming in as like agritourism type thing? I seem to remember you saying that some people wanted to come and watch while you were milking, and you're like, no, we don't do that. Um,
Right.
what kind of
Well, we have
access do people have to you, and what made you put the boundaries that you have on that?
um we work a lot. And so we're not staffed because whenever you have people on here, then they need to be supervised because you have animals and you're worried about their safety, things like that.
Yeah.
So you want to have some tour type organization so that people can come. We so we're open sometimes like we did a taste and tours type of thing where people could come taste the cheese and tour the place,
Oh, yeah.
which works well in the spring, but when it gets hot, then people don't come want to come out. But you have to staff accordingly. So we try to be open like after milking's done and we're cleaned up because you don't want people slipping if the cement's wet, things like that sort of stuff.
Yep.
And to then we had well an example, and then like we have events sometimes like we did Ma Day.
Okay.
So people came out for that and they could see our new moms and they did goat yoga, which was
Oh,
interesting. The goats were like, no, we're not doing this. So
so
I
I've
don't
never
know.
done goat yoga. Tell me what that was like.
Well, the goats didn't know the people and they wanted them to go in a different area. We had them set up so they would be safe, but the goats weren't used to going into that area. So they were like, we don't even go there.
They were weirded out
So,
to begin with.
yeah, they were totally weird. And there was like
Sorry,
two,
this is not where we're supposed to be.
yeah, that's a part of their routine. And then they know, so I had my girls bring them out. People got all set up, had my staff bring them out, and then they just hung out with my staff because that's who feeds them and they know them. And so, and then it was getting warmer, so they stayed in the shade with my people. And so the people were a little disappointed that the goats didn't come and like jump on them and things like that sort of stuff. And I think if you have goats that are more used to doing that sort of stuff or be more
Yeah.
set up for it, it
Yeah.
might be more successful. But
I gotta
it
say,
was
I haven't
interesting.
quite figured out the goat yoga thing because,
It wasn't relaxing. I
well,
mean,
I wouldn't find it so like I know when my son was little, I was into doing yoga for some reason, and I love yoga, but I was doing it a lot when my son was little. And I found it to be incredibly frustrating to me because I wanted to hold a pose and then he's like crawling under me when I'm trying to go down and
right.
okay, so I'm waiting for him and I'm trying to be like, understanding about that. Yeah, and then he would like lean on my back, and my sister actually got really injured doing yoga with her son when he was little because
Mhm.
she was
Yes.
holding a pose and he jumped on her back. And he's now 20, and there are still times when that back will tweak on her and she'll just be like, this is not okay. Like this my back is permanently damaged from doing yoga with my child. And so I'm
Yes.
thinking like having a goat jump on you just doesn't sound like a great thing.
Well, they're smaller goats. I mean, like once again, ours were they're big
Nubians.
Nubians as they grow, but as babies, I mean, they were born small, but now they're 6 weeks old, and so they're getting up there in their little weight. So and then they have sharp little paws because we have bruises on our legs from feeding them and jumping on you, things like
Yeah.
that. So I I don't know if we'd do it again. I don't, it was stressful. The people didn't quite get what I think that they wanted, and the goats were just like totally off it by it.
Yeah.
So it was interesting.
Well,
But
it's nice to try something new.
Yeah.
And sometimes we find that whatever that new is doesn't work for our system. And
Hmm.
and that's okay. That's okay to say this is not working for me.
Well, see, what people really like is that we have a beautiful setting. People like to come out and just, enjoy the setting, and they really like to pet the baby goats. So
Yeah,
that's really what the big draw is.
right.
Or take a pic, like we did a kid in time where we had set up a little place where people could take pictures with the kid.
Yeah.
And then that was a big hit because then they got to hold a goat.
Oh,
So, so that one worked out well.
I think any baby animals are fun, but goats are particularly so. I mean, you see it on Instagram all the time that as soon as there's a goat video, they're just jumping everywhere and being so silly and
Yes.
ridiculous that you just can't stand
Hmm.
it.
They're quite the characters.
So, I'm looking at the clock and I'm saying, as always, my goodness, this time has gone so quickly. And I'm going to kind of wrap us up by asking the question that I ask every farmer who comes on my show. If you had one piece of advice that you thought every farmer should know, what would that be?
That for me, that realize that you're probably living more of a passion than a profit situation.
Ah. So talk to me a little bit about that.
It's, well, it's like, I mean, everything can goes ups and costs and things like that. And, people are willing to pay a lot for a burger, but like if you tell them, oh, the goat cheese is such and such, like, oh, that's kind of high.
Yeah.
Or they expect the farmer to compromise on their price because they have their people to pay, but farmers have their people to pay too. And, all our staff needs to have a living and things like that. And we're paying the same for gas or maybe even more. And so you're driving for your product and things like that. Your feed bill goes up.
Yeah.
Your inspection fees go up. Everything goes up. So
Yeah, and I'm curious about that. Have you found that when you explain that to customers, they all of a sudden have like an aha moment, or is there not really a dialogue about where the price, like how the price gets set and that kind of thing?
there's not really a dialogue on it. It's just, especially with like goat cheese and things like that, is that, well, I can go to Costco and buy this for that. It's like, well, yes, but it's not going to taste the same.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so you're dealing with that factor.
yeah. That
And
one
then
always feels like a slap in the face when you go to the farm and they're like, "Well, I can get it at Sam's Club."
it's like, well, if that's what you want to eat,
And
okay.
you go. That's okay.
Yeah, enjoy.
Right. Oh, well, Margie, I want to thank you so much. This has been such a lovely conversation, and I'm really excited that we had you on. And I want to thank all of you out there for joining us, and we will see you next time on Food, Flowers, and Fun. Bye.
Great. Thank you. Bye.
How do you multiply by fractions, Mom?
Farmers calling, our show is all done. Goodbye, farewell, so long, adieu. See you next week, same time, same place for Food, Flowers, and Fun. Go in peace. Visit us at www.penlightfarmers.com.